much. So yeah, there've been some great provocations and presentations already at this conference around the opportunity and the risks of technology, and in particular AI, and really loved the panel provocation yesterday. And it felt like to me that there's a sense of openness and opportunity as to what it can help us solve in new ways, but also an acknowledgement of the importance of maintaining the human connection that's central to what we do, and particularly in the lived experience space. So, at Reach Out, we believe that building a digital capability can really enable the conference vision of universal wellbeing and personalised care for everybody. So to start with though, I want to tell you what could be somewhat shocking story of a restructure that ended well. An organisational restructure that ended well. So I'll just tell you a little bit about Reach Out to set the scene, and then we'll jump into it. So Reach Out is the leading online mental health service for young people. We provide a safe space for young people to connect, to explore what's going on for them, and to access further support. It's anonymous, free, and 100% online, and it's been designed over the last 27 years with and for young people. So to the restructure. A few years ago, Reach Out made the decision to bring our mental health service team and our digital product team together under one shared director. So on the service side, we had mental health clinicians, we had clinical governance, we had content experts, and on the product side, we had solution architects. I had to learn what that meant. We had product managers, we had developers, and it's fair to say we had very different ways of working. So you can see from this slide of these comparisons, there were differences in pace, there were differences in governance, and there were differences in acceptance of risk. And that was something we had to acknowledge. But I think the key point that we were coming back to is around change. And that if we think about change, it was no longer an incremental process, and it hadn't been for a long time. We've been experiencing accelerating change. We can see that with the adoption of AI. And as a service and an organisation, we needed to move from responding and adapting to change to embracing it, to recognising the opportunities that it presents for us, and to building a capability that allowed us to lead through change. And especially when working with young people, what we hear from them all the time is that it's their experience of platforms and tech, like scrolling on TikTok, like ChatGPT and Gemini, that really sets their expectations of what they need from a digital mental health and wellbeing service. So we can't be stuck in the fact sheet days. We need to be meeting their needs of personalised real-time support. So that's where digital transformation came in for us. It was really about building a capability to lead through change. So it wasn't really about technology solutions. It's a way of working that's people-centred. It helps us to understand the real problem and to test and learn our solutions. And ultimately, it's about better meeting the needs of the people we serve. So today my colleague Christy will share a case team to work in a digitally led development process to design and launch a new lived experience service. And then we'll share our key learnings.
Thanks, Jackie. We'll come back to the org restructure at the very end, and we can hear how it all went. Okay, so I'm Christy. I'm here to talk to you about PeerChat, which is one of our digital products at Reach Out, and take you through a pretty high-level case study in how we developed it. The first thing we learned as we went along is that we really needed to trust the process and start with an understanding of the problem and not start at the solution. So digital products like apps and websites are just the outcome of a process that starts long, long, long before they ever appear on the internet. How do they come about? Well, I'd like to get everyone familiar with a really common framework that digital teams use. It's called the Double Diamond Framework. Some of you might have heard of it, for some of you it might be quite familiar. The first diamond explores the problem that you want to solve, and the second explores the possible solutions. But why is it a diamond? The first side of the diamond represents the really expansive nature of looking broadly at all the possible options to make sure that you don't make any assumptions and you don't miss anything. The kind of activities you might do in this part of the process are things like direct research, staff observations, or client interviews. So when we were developing PeerChat, we knew that young people's expectations of technology were changing, and we spent time exploring that particular topic with them. We did some direct research, and what we heard back was that static content, like web pages, there just wasn't enough for them. Young people wanted more interactive, more personalised services. And they wanted things that were still easy to access, but they didn't want it to be clinical. The second side of each diamond is about consciously narrowing the options and making deliberate choices. The kind of activities you might undertake on this side of the diamond include testing and validating concepts or running a pilot trial. Now for PeerChat, we looked at a range of solutions that might meet the needs of an accessible non-clinical service for young people. We did have a hypothesis that a one-to-one chat would work, but we also looked at other options like coaching before narrowing down the solution to a text-based chat with a peer worker. So when you step through the process in this order, firstly looking at the problem space solution, you can avoid missteps that can be costly or create products that are really shiny and cool, and I'm sure you guys have all got apps on your phone that meet this criteria, but they really don't serve any purpose in the real world. So it's not about the technology, it's about the people and the way you work together. So Jackie mentioned this before. I'm going to take you through a few things we did to overcome these challenges on our teams. First up, we clearly defined the roles on the team. So in the photo, you can see two product managers, one of them is in the room at the moment. We have a solution architect, we have a peer worker, and we have our clinical lead. Very diverse roles and diverse experience. But we got everyone in the room from the beginning, so everyone's voice was heard in shaping our response from the outset. We designed PeerChat not only with the people who would use it, the young people who would use it, but also with the peer workers who would run it. And when we hired our first senior peer worker, we involved them, we embedded them into this team long, long before there was a product that was actually ready to launch. We also took the time to create shared meaning. The digital team, as you might call them here, are actually not standing around a computer, they're standing around a whiteboard. And they're discussing ideas. What we found was that language was important. Sometimes everyone would actually be trying to say the same thing, but we're all coming at it with different terminology. And it just takes time to get to know each other and come to that shared understanding. We were trying to build trust through transparency. So once we had this team and they had the language to talk to each other, we worked on building more trust through transparency. And we focused on simple things like documentation being written in clear and simple English. We were transparent about decisions and choices. And we kept the documentation lean, just enough to document our thoughts and ideas as we progressed through it, but not enough to slow us down. Now this way of working can feel really, really different if you're on a service team, who service staff often by their very nature are more guarded about having this default position of open or public information. We also did a lot of work around sharing progress early and sharing often. A fortnightly update where they might demo the work in progress. It's not finished and it's not polished. It's a little bit like a show and tell session at a primary school that you might remember. But the goal of sharing this early work is to gain feedback early. And it's also vital to help see emerging issues. You might uncover processes. You might realise there's a process that you were like, oh, we don't have a process for that thing we need to solve. And sometimes you even see new opportunities. And lastly, we tried to keep a sustainable space. You'll hear digital teams say words like, we're agile, we work in sprints, and they're really weird words if you don't work that way. But they're just words, and what they're really trying to do is help people as humans kind of contain the work and be able to help us focus on addressing the work in front of us without being overwhelmed. Learn by doing and be prepared to change course. So we have a common analogy in digital projects that if your goal is to get from A to B quickly and you start with a set of wheels, you can go from a skateboard to a scooter to a car, and it's a better approach than taking several years to design and build a really fancy Ferrari. But why? Why does it matter? Why would you want to start this way? Well, with a digital mindset, we're acknowledging that things change. We did that rather than building things from scratch, which meant we could then spend time and money putting a custom interface over the top of this, so it really appealed to young people. And if I fast forward 3 years, we've learned so much by running this service in the real world. Less than a year ago, we decided to actually retire our booked model of peer chat sessions and move to an on-demand service. How did we do it? Exactly the same process again, rinse and repeat. Start with the problem. So today, Peer Chat is having a real impact. We're delivering hundreds of on-demand sessions, and 74% of Peer Chat's users feel better after their chat. So our key takeaways are really about the digital mindset and ways of working. And once we embrace this, it really allowed us to lead through the change. Take the time to build shared understanding, which leads to trust. Remember, technology is only the tool, that is never the end point and the end goal, and learn by doing and adapt as you go. I'm going to hand back to Jackie for some final reflections.
So, as somebody whose experience coming into this project came more from that public health and the health promotion and service delivery space, what did I learn? Really to be curious and open. To be honest, I think I'm continuously learning that lesson. But to really think, have I considered all the perspectives here? Could I be wrong? Is there a different way of looking at this? Secondly, to upskill myself on new ways of working. It can be really confronting, and at first I felt, what is my value in this team where I don't understand, these new ways of working in this lingo. So I did a course on agile ways of working. I bought books, old school, and I spoke to people more experienced than myself to just build my own confidence in this way of working. I learned to trust the process, that double diamond, and that we will get there, but also my role in it and my expertise. And my boss at the time used to say to me, Jackie, it's good that you can advocate for the service so passionately. Take from that what you will. And finally, that the power is moving beyond being consulted as an expert to working in true partnership. And Rachel from Saying yesterday shared that if, in this, she was talking about the digital navigation work, if you can lean into these difficult conversations, if you can kind of fight it out in the room but walk away with trust and openness from that, you can actually move beyond, sort of that tokenistic approach to working in true partnership. And I think the test of that is that for us, we will actually reach the point where we've sort of broken those habits and those old ways of working around service versus digital. As the Peer Chat team grew, we've actually brought service back into its own directorate now rather than it being combined, but with the trust, the shared meaning and the ways of working to continue to partner. Thanks.
Just going to show my age, but I was probably the first one to put up a website for mental health. I don't know.
They were world's first.
They were world first, and it blew my mind, and it still is. Like, it's so nice to see that you're still continuing on, and that. Like, I just, and I love how you bring the connections back in. So, like, it's all about that connection, isn't it? Like the process. The AI is there to help us, support us. We might have time for one quick question. Is there any burning question? Yeah.
Do you see this process working beyond digital, so other just services
Yes, I think, I was thinking about that this morning because it's digital for us, but it's also really human-centred design and design thinking, that double diamond. So I think that it can be adapted, and it's really about who do you need. So say if it was an in-person peer work service, the same premise would apply where we were not just designing it with young people, but with peer workers, so that approach of co-production. And I think I personally continuously learn to think, what if I'm wrong? It's not my natural instinct, but I think it's very important, and I think the double diamond kind of forces that openness.
Can I add a comment? I'm currently in a role at Reach Out where I'm a little bit back office instead of front-facing with the digital products. And what I see happening is that with a bit of encouragement and the right tools and building the trust, particularly building the trust, I've actually been working with the finance team and people right across the business to kind of embed better planning processes. So, yeah, I think it is entirely possible to take the principles, particularly the building, take time to build the trust, and then everyone just comes with you pretty easily.
And I like the diamond shape as
Yeah.
well, like explore first, go
Oh,
wide.
go
Who
wide.
doesn't like a diamond?
That's very true, very true, very true. The next one, they're very fortunate to have Shane. I had a bit of a sneak